Just before I do this video, I want to make a little disclaimer. This is not an overview about David Moyes' abilities or capabilities as a West Ham manager or the job he's done in the past year. In fact, I think the job he's done in the last 12 or so months, whatever it is, has been quite remarkable, more than acceptable, because he's taken us from a club battling relegation, certainly, if not relegation certainties, but certainly candidates for relegation, to a solid, stable, mid-table team. That's an achievement. If you'd have offered me that 12 months ago, I'd have ripped your hand off, because I did think that getting relegated, particularly in the stadium, you've got to imagine this is before COVID has even happened. I think if we got relegated, we surrender all our advantages that we had at Upton Park. I think it would become a good day out at the London Stadium for a lot of teams. So I think it's imperative that now than at any time in our history we don't get relegated. So if you'd have asked me then, would you accept being a solid mid-table team? I said yes, absolutely. But now we've achieved that, it doesn't mean that we can't push on. It doesn't mean that we can't move on to bigger and better things, because I think the foundations have been laid and I think they're quite solid. Gio referred to in the review of our foundations being on a house of cards. I don't particularly agree with that. I think he's drilled the defence relatively well. I think he's inbuilt a couple of formations. Whilst I don't think we're well beaters, I think we're good enough to get more, to average more than a point a game, which I do think is key. 38 games, get more than a point a game, you're safe. I think we're better now. I think we may well finish the season on over 45 to 50 points, something like that. So that's really, really good. However, there was a lot wrong against Brighton, and really this is what that video is about, because I think it took a little bit of nerve for him, and when I say nerve, it's a little bit cheeky is what I mean, to put out that team. The team, our starting 11, was not good enough at all. I mentioned in the preview that it was a team for an empty stadium. By that, I mean you'd only get away with it with no fans in there. That was a sort of Hull City, Sam Allardyce cup in the ear to the fans one, because that, if you cast your mind back, wasn't good enough at all. I believe Hull City went down to 10 men and we should have attacked them. We didn't. We defended, and we got through by the seat of our pants. And there'll be many people who look at this and look at the video and say, well, what's your problem? We got a draw. No harm done, right? Well, no harm done, and we scraped away with it, but we looked like we had surrendered large parts of the football pitch and large parts of the game, like creativity. We seemed to want to have no creativity at all. We seemed to want to blunderbuss our way through. We seemed to want to battle, and I like these things. I like these qualities about David Moyes' team, but not everybody in the team can do that. You can't pack your team full of defensive-minded players and expect it to yield lots and lots of goals. Surely our team is not built so much upon Mikel Antonio, who, let's be fair, was an afterthought anyway, in terms of him being a striker. Surely he's not that integral to our team. So why? Why was Mark Noble included in that midfield three? It was so slow. It was so pedestrian. We learnt this from before. We saw it in the last game when Mark Noble was on the pitch. It wasn't good enough then, and it's not good enough now. Where are the staff in this? Because, let's be fair, David Moyes and his staff have received an awful lot of praise from myself on this channel. Lots and lots. And if you're going to accept the praise, you're going to have to accept the criticism as well. Why was nobody on that staff turn around and say, David, that's too negative a formation? Where's the think tank? Where's everybody getting together? Where's everybody saying, surely we got to have either Yarmolenko, Benrahma or Lanzini in that team? But he just didn't do it. To go with that team not only lacked flair, but it lacked inspiration. And I felt that inspiration rubbed off on the rest of the team. The team were looking frustrated. Declan Rice throwing his arms up. And I'll tell you something right now. Declan Rice is far more likely to leave if we play like that. If Declan Rice has got in his mind that, let's say, Chelsea are a Champions League team and West Ham are just a team that are happy to be mid-table, he'll think, well, that's what I've just seen. This cements my opinion. This is why I've got to get out of here. Because it doesn't look like we're pushing up. Because whilst David Moyes would probably say we have ambition, that team didn't send out the message to either the fans, the opposition, or the players that we have ambition. That was a safety first team. That was a shut up shop team. Well, you know what? It didn't work because we didn't shut up the shop. One of my biggest criticisms of Sam Allardyce, and you'll know this because I said it numerous times, is that he claimed to be a defensive manager. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work because his team shipped loads of goals. When Sam Allardyce was at his best was when he actually had Sacco and Downing and Valencia. He was scoring goals. He then changed it and the rest is history. Ended up losing his job because of it. Now, David Moyes, I think, needs to understand something here because I would imagine when he got jettisoned the first time in his first stint with the club, when David Sullivan let him go, he was probably scratching his head thinking, well, why? I've done my job. But I'll tell you now, if not that he's particularly watching, so I'll tell you, I won't tell David Moyes, I'll tell you that's watching, this is exactly why David Moyes lost his job. This is why Pellegrini got the West Ham job. David Moyes' attempt during the first time was more than adequate. But what happened was, let's say there was a bit of a, there was a wave, I was going to say a tsunami. There was a wave of opinion from the fan who didn't want to watch that type of football. It wasn't just the football, it was the negativity of team selection, it was the negativity of substitution. Now, as this is why I'm saying I'm just dealing with this game, because I think it highlights perfectly what went wrong the first time. And there was so much pressure put on the board. We understand that David Gold wanted David Moyes to remain on the first stint, that even Karen Brady might have done. But we understand it that David Sullivan just decided, hold on, I think the fans want a little bit more excitement. In fact, David Sullivan alluded to it when he did the interview with TalkSport. He wanted to get someone more adventurous in. So when David Moyes is looking at it thinking, I don't understand why, actually, if I was to give an example, even though it's late and it's after the date, it's stuff like this. It's that formation that you put out against Brighton. Not just the formation. I keep saying formation. I don't mean that. It's the personnel within that formation. It's the fact that you would put in a midfield three of Declan Rice, of Thomas Souček, and of Mark Noble. And you would leave players like Lanzini, Yarmolenko and Benrahma on the bench. I think David Moyes doesn't understand quite how much that infuriates the fans. Even just a token one of those guys on there, just one, would help. Because it doesn't work. Number one, it doesn't work on the team what you saw. If it had worked, he could turn around and say, there you go, see? But what it does, it puts in a little bit of separation between the team and the fans. And the fans get impatient and the fans moan and groan a little bit because we want to see excitement. Which is why I said that was a team put out there for an empty stadium. And he needs to understand this because I want him to remain. I want him to build a team. Not only do I want him to do that, I've seen his teams play well. I've seen his teams attack. I've seen it against Wolves. I've seen it against Leicester. I know that David Moyes is more than capable of building a team that is tight at the back, but has at least three attacking players in it who can really go at the opposition. Well, I tell you now, Sebastian Haller at the moment is not going at the opposition. I said it before. He's not aggressive enough. He's not clinical enough. He's not offering a goal threat. Simple as that. So if he's not doing it, then the players that surround him have to do it. Now, is Jarrod Bowen capable of providing an attacking threat? Absolutely yes. But that team, bearing in mind, Haller's performance was no surprise. What we saw from Sebastian Haller was no surprise at all. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's how he's been playing. So you're asking Jarrod Bowen to provide the attacking responsibility for the team on his own. No. Where is the guy in that starting lineup to dribble past the opposition players? There isn't one. The best dribbler we had in the first half was Ben Johnson. Well, that ain't right. That ain't right. I mean, first of all, he's playing on his weaker side. He's right-footed. Did a damn good job, by the way, of dribbling with his left foot. But the most successful dribbles were by him. Surely not. Where's our attacking guy in the middle who can dribble past the player? Not there. Where's the guy in that formation that can play the incisive pass, the creative pass, the number 10 pass, the pass invention, the Jarl Berkovic pass? You know what I'm talking about. Not there. We didn't have anyone in there to play it. I am not entirely sure why David Moyes feels that he needs 10 stoppers on the pitch. 10 grafters. Don't run, don't play. I get it. No, do I get it? I agree. But it's not like Lanzini is a lazy player. Look at him tracking back. Look at that second half. He was back at left back at one point. You've got to have someone who can do the magical stuff. You've got to have somebody, and you look sometimes, you think, David Moyes has got a mistrust about creativity or technique. He mistrusts players that do a trick or try a long shot or whatever the case may be, a dribble. Not all of them, but the suspicion remains. And whilst he's doing that, it doesn't give the opposition anything to think about. I can tell you now, the opposition would have been absolutely delighted when they found out the two attackers on the pitch were Sebastian Haller and Jarrod Bowen. All right, well, look, Jarrod Bowen's a handy enough player, but let's be fair, he's probably easy enough to mitigate with 4 defenders. Sebastian Haller, you just look at him, and if they've looked at tapes at West Ham recently, you'd be saying, don't worry about him. He was completely dominated. He was dominated in the way that the Leeds defenders dominated him, Sebastian Haller. Then you're not looking at the best Leeds and Brighton. You're not looking at the best centre-halves in the league here. Not at all. It's not Virgil van Dijk, are they? So I don't think we gave them anything to think about. I think you hand in a team sheet that has Benrahma and Lanzini in it. Straight away you're thinking, oh, okay. These are going to twist. They're going to turn us. They're going to have us facing, get our defenders facing the wrong way. It's not good. It's not good that technical ability is frowned upon. It's not a good thing to surrender large areas of the midfield. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, why haven't you listened to the commentator? I do wonder, not during the game, he can't listen to the commentator during the game. I do wonder if he goes back, David Moyes, and he listens, when he watches that game, is he just watching because West Ham will have their own cameras, is he just watching the West Ham version of the game? Will he listen to what the commentator's got to say? Will he think that Gary Neville has a vendetta against him? Because I don't think he has. I think Gary Neville has praised West Ham quite a lot. When I've listened to him commentate, he's said, oh, West Ham play well, Bowen's doing a good job, and he'll say good things. But when Gary Neville turns around and says that team sheet don't look right, when he says saying things like there's too many players of the same type, when he's saying things like the West Ham fans will be frustrated with this, West Ham don't look any threat at all, then surely there has to be something in it. There has to be some truth to what's being said. Look, this video is more just a rant of frustration, really, than any long-term opinion about David Moyes. It's really not. But I do feel that he probably does need to understand this, because it is exactly what I said. It's stuff like this and the stuff that I've described, the lack of creativity and the mistrust and the setting out defensively against teams like Brighton. Don't bother. Go for it. Try and attack them. I know he can. But reasons like that are why people remain suspicious of him, and that's why he lost the job in the first place. He probably looked at Pellegrini when Pellegrini was in the job and thinking, well, I can do better than that. And in terms of results, he is doing better than Pellegrini at the end. And Pellegrini, as much as Sam Allardyce promised defensive football, Pellegrini promised swashbuckling attacking football. He didn't really deliver that either. But David Moyes has got his philosophy. That's fine. But he has to understand that fans need something to get behind. And what they need is something to get behind are some players who are going to offer a threat against the opposition goal. If you don't feel you've got the players at your disposal, then get some new ones in. It really is as simple as that. But for goodness sake, if you're going to put a team out, put some attacking threat on the pitch.